What is up, agents? This is Wrecker, back with another build video. So this is something I put together specifically for the ongoing global event, SHD Exposed. So basically, when the event is active, as soon as an enemy sees you and you're in combat, you start building exposure. What that means is, if you notice a red icon, red next to my character, you will see that it's building stacks, and until it fills up to full stacks, all the enemies that have seen you are gonna hit you like a truck. Yes, it will basically double the incoming damage you take. But the good thing is, you can reverse this buff back to the enemies, but only after it fully stacks up. And in order to get the full stacks faster, you need to run around as much as possible. Even though you can build stacks in cover, but then they will build up very slowly. So once you're at full stacks, you can reverse the buff in two ways. You can either melee an enemy or do a cover to cover. Once you do that, you will gain insane amount of damage buff right away. And that is why I have made sure we have enough survivability in order to run around in combat, but also melee enemies easily. So yeah, with that being said, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's begin. Okay, so starting off with the specialization, we are running the technician spec here. Out of all the very good perks that we do get from this spec, the only primary reason for me is the attachment that pulses enemies. That's very important because we are running some talents and buffs who does require us to pulse the enemies in order to get them, right? So that's the main important thing. Other than that, we are getting +1 skill tier, so that's very helpful. So yeah, that's the specialization we're running with this setup. Okay, so starting off with the weapons, primarily I'm running my Police M4. It's fully ranked up, as you see, plus 23% weapon damage. So for the third attribute, I'm running damage targets out of cover, so that's very important. As a base number, we are sitting at 98.5k, 850 RPM, and VAC of 50. Now, if you prefer to run something else, I would highly recommend running the Kingbreaker, because that's basically has double the damage from Police M4, and it can support the attachment from the technician spec to pulse enemies. And on top, it comes with the perfect variant of the talent we're running, that's Flatline. So Kingbreaker does give you 20%, but for me personally, I don't like the handling on that weapon, but that's me. If you want to run that, feel free to do that. But yeah, for my Police M4, I'm running normal Flatline. We're getting 15% amp damage to pulse enemies, and since we will be pulsing them on point because of the attachment, so that's very handy. For the secondary that I'm running, of course, as always, I'm running my Scorpio as a backup if I ever need it. So yeah, that's the two weapons we're running primarily. Okay, so starting off with the gear pieces, we are running 4-piece Heartbreaker gear set. The 2-piece is getting us 15% assault rifle and LMG damage. 3-piece gets us 15% weapon handling, that's very helpful. And the 4-piece is the main talent for the gear set, it's called Heartstopper. Headshot supply pulse for 5 seconds. Again, we don't really care about that because we will be pulsing enemies on point. So weapon hits on pulsed enemies add a stack of 1% bonus armor and 1% weapon damage to pulse enemies up to 50 stacks. Now keep in mind, we are running the chest piece in this setup for the gear set, and that's why we will be doubling the numbers here. So in total, we will be getting 100% bonus armor and 100% weapon damage on full stacks here. So for the attributes, I'm running on the chest itself, that's armor as a core attribute, then crit hit chance and crit hit chance mod in there. As I mentioned earlier, the chest piece talent, it's gonna double our numbers on the main buff. So yeah, that's the chest we're running. Same thing for the mask. For the gear set, we are running armor, crit hit damage, and a crit hit chance mod in there. For the holster, same thing, armor and crit hit damage here. And the last piece for the gear set, that's the knee pads. In this one, I'm running weapon damage and crit hit chance. Keep in mind, I have balanced it out, 3 blues and 3 reds. That's why you're seeing different core attributes on different gear pieces. So yeah, that's the knee pad we're running here. Okay, for the backpack, I am running a Grupo backpack, running all reds, weapon damage, crit chance, and crit hit chance mod in there. And of course, as a brand bonus, it's gonna give us 15% crit hit damage in addition. Now for the talent here, I have chosen to go with Bloodsucker because it is gonna give us 100% bonus armor on full stacks. That's 10 stacks in total. So on top of the gear set Heartbreaker, 100% bonus armor from that, and 100% bonus armor from Bloodsucker on full stacks. So you will be having a huge amount of bonus armor that you can easily melee enemies and face tank them. And that's very important because in order to get the buff from the global event stacks, you need to melee them or do a cover to cover. And in order to do that, you have to have some survivability. Now for the last piece on this build, this is very unique because you won't see much people running it, but since this is a special build for the global event itself and not necessarily something you would want to run on a daily basis, I wanted to run this gloves here, the exotic bloody knuckles gloves, because the talent that it comes with synergizes very well with the whole activity global event that we are trying to do here. It comes with all reds, weapon damage, crit chance, and crit hit damage here. Then it comes with a talent called over the top. So basically what's happening is if you melee the enemy, you're gonna get a plus 25% weapon damage on melee. That's a huge damage bonus here. That's basically running vigilance on your gloves. But the only caveat is that you have to melee the enemy, and that's why I have made sure that we have enough survivability that you can melee enemies on heroic. Yes, of course you can easily run this global event on lower difficulties, but that's not fun. I wanted to make a build that's viable on heroic difficulty, right? So other than that, it does talk about the cooldown and the duration, but you don't have to worry about that. As long as you keep meleeing enemies, it's gonna keep refreshing your cooldown. So you're gonna get plus 25% weapon damage for 20 seconds on first melee, and then when it goes on cooldown, just simply melee another enemy and the buff gets back up, so you can trigger it again, right? So that's very simple. As you will see in the gameplay, just focus on meleeing the enemies whenever you can, and you will have this buff active at all times, right? So that's very handy. So try it out. It's a unique piece, I know, but it's very fun for this setup especially. So that's the glove we're running. Starting off with the skills, primarily I'm running my shield, the Crusader shield. Of course, you do have enough survivability and bonus armor to just melee enemies in the face without this, but in case you need it, that's a very handy skill to have, right? For the bones, I'm running shield health on 2 of them and then holster regen on the 3rd one. Keep in mind, since we do have a skill tier 4 shield, so that's a very tanky shield here. So if you are not comfortable with meleeing enemies in the face without the shield, I would highly recommend running this so that you can be safer while meleeing enemies, right? So because it can be difficult, because they will be shredding you. I can assure you they will hit you very hard unless you reverse the buff back onto them, right? So yeah, that's what we're running here. And for the secondary skill, I am personally running the defender drone because again, we need to have survivability while running around, keeping our stacks up for the global event, and also meleeing enemies. So the more defensive talents and skills that you can have on this setup, the better you will be. So yeah, that's what I'm running for the mods. I'm running deflect duration, health, and then damage reduction. So yeah, that's what we're running for the second skill. Okay, so before I jump into the full overview for the setup, let me show you the stats real quick. We are sitting at 98k as a base number, 57 crit chance, 113 crit damage, 75 headshot damage, 21% health damage, and don't forget we are sitting at 10% damage direct out of cover, which isn't listed here. Now these are really good numbers for our primary police M4, but if I switch to my Scorpio, the backup here, that does have really good crit numbers as well. So 60% crit chance, 118 crit damage, 65 headshot, 12% armor damage. That's really huge. So those are really good numbers even for the backup. Same thing for our sidearm, fully maxed out crit numbers, so that's really handy. So yeah, these are the full stats for the entire setup here. Okay, so this is the full build, everyone. We are running the technician spec, of course, primarily for the pulse attachment. Primarily, I'm running my police M4 with flatline, but as I said earlier, you can run Kingbreaker if you like to, but for me, that's the police M4. As a backup, secondary, I am running my Scorpio, sidearm Orbit to get the buffs if I need to, we are running a 4-piece Heartbreaker gear set here, including the chest piece to get the full damage buffs on 100 stacks. That's really handy. For the backpack, I am running a Grupo backpack, all reds and with the Talon Bloodsucker. So that's gonna give us an additional 100% bonus armor on full stacks. And lastly, a very unique piece here which you won't see many people running, but it synergizes extremely well with this global event. That's the Bloody Knuckles exotic gloves. That's gonna give you plus 25% weapon damage on melee each time. So those are really good numbers there. For the skills, of course, I am running my Crusader Shield as primary and also the Defender Drone. Again, the last tip, as I mentioned earlier, do not go for any offensive talents because you will get insane amount of damage when you turn the buff back to the enemies. So don't worry about that, just go for survivability. Of course, you need to have damage. As you can see here, I have balanced it out. We're running 3 reds, 3 blues, and full out crit numbers. You can do that, but make sure you have enough survivability to keep running around because you need to keep your stacks up by running around in combat and also mailing enemies. So yeah, that's my best tip here. So yeah, with that being said, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.